Hi everybody, welcome year one and year two to your Tuesday reading session with me, Mr. Phillips. Usual hashtags and Twitter handles apply. You'll notice it's something a little bit different today. I thought after last week when it wasn't quite working, was it, with me holding my camera up to the text, I thought we would try something slightly different today. So instead you've got me in this little box here, help, and here you've got the text. And what we're going to do is I'm going to switch between my questions on the PowerPoint and the text. Now, I'm going to leave the book in the description still, so you can have an own copy if you want to have a little look at it yourself, but I will be showing you everything on this screen, okay? So, today, our book is called Do You Love Bugs? And it's by the author, Matt Robertson, okay? So, who remembers what the first part of our reading lesson is? Well, it is to predict. And when we predict, we guess what we think is going to happen in the text. So we say, I predict that. And then we have a go at guessing what we think is going to be happening. So in this book, Do You Love Bugs by Matt Robertson, what do you think? What do you predict is going to happen? Do you think it's going to be a storybook? Do you think it's going to be an information book? If it's an information book, what do you think it's going to give us information about? If it's a storybook, what do you think the story is going to be about? Pause there and have a little think about what do you predict this book is going to be about. You can either write it down or tell someone that you're with. Remember, start with, I predict that. So for my prediction, looking at this picture again, I think it's going to be a storybook because it's got cartoons on it. And also the title sounds like a story. Looking at the picture, I predict that it might be about two worms who fall in love. So that's what I am going to write down for my prediction. I predict that this is a storybook. I predict that it is going to be about, move me out of the way slightly there, about two worms falling in love. That is what I predict for my book today. Your prediction might be different, and that's absolutely fine, but that's my prediction for today. Now that we've predicted, should we have a little go at reading it and seeing if our predictions are right? So I'm going to swap our screen over to the book. Now, there's a few different pages on our book, but this is the one I want us to focus on. I want us to focus on the bees section. There are other pages like this, but I want to focus just on the bees section today, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move myself out of the way because you don't need to see me for this little bit. You need to see the text. And you should be able to see my mouse floating around on the screen. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to read it to you, and you can follow on with your text, or you can just look at what I'm doing. Okay. Here we go. We're going to start here. Bees. Why is that bee buzzing around or about? Good start, good start. Because it's busy looking for sweet nectar, of course. Yummy. Bees don't just make honey, they are very important for our planet. As they move from one flower to another, they collect and spread a yellow dust called pollen that helps to make new seeds. If bees didn't do this, there would be no new flowers, plants, fruit, or vegetables. So be careful not to bother bees. Dearie me. Should we follow this path here and read the bits as we're going along the path? The next bit is here. It says bee boogie. Honeybees communicate with each other by dancing. There you go. We communicate by talking, but they communicate by dancing. This one says supervision. Bumblebees and honeybees have 5 eyes. They have 2 big ones and 3 small ones. That's good, isn't it? This bit here says bumblebees and honeybees store pollen in little pouches on their back legs. This one says the queen honeybee rules the hive. She gives birth to all the baby bees. There we go. So learning quite a lot of different bits of information. We have to remember where we found the information. Let's drag this across. This says the life of a honeybee, how honeybee is made. And then we get 3 different parts of their life. It says, honeybees drink nectar from flowers and keep it in a separate honey stomach. When their honey stomach is full, they return to the hive and pass the nectar to another bees. As they do this, the nectar turns to honey. Once the nectar turns to honey, the bees keep it safe in the hive. Bees have 2 stomachs, one for storing nectar and one for eating. Female worker bees protect the hive and look after baby bees. They also collect nectar from flowers and turn it into honey. Male drone bees help the queen to make baby bees. Go to the bottom and see if there's any information at the bottom. Ooh, don't go off the page. This bit says bears love honey. This fact here says 1 beehive can make 80 jars of honey in a year. Then we've got a last little 3 bits here about bees. This bit says honeybees. Honeybees have long, thin bodies and live in a hive. They are the only bees that can make honey. And this is a bumblebee. You can see it's very different, isn't it? This one says bumblebees have thick, round bodies and live in the ground. Most have black and yellow stripes, but their bottoms can be red, white, brown, or yellow. Then this very last bit here says, when winter comes, some bees hide in old mouse holes to keep warm. There we go. That's our full bees text. And we read all the information. There was a lot of information spread out, wasn't there? All different places. We've now read all of that information. I wonder how much of it you can remember. Right, well, let's go back to our PowerPoint and let's do our clarify section. Should we bring me back in again? There I am. Hello again. So we've done our prediction. Let's move on to our clarify, which is when we try and understand what some of the more difficult words in the text mean. So the first word we've got is nectar. Now I wonder if anyone remembered what nectar was. If you did, pause the video and write it down, or tell someone who's with you. So nectar was the liquid collected from plants, and it's sweet and it's sugary, and it's made to attract bees and other insects to the plants. But it's what the bees drink. So it's a sugary, sweet liquid in, we'll put it in flowers. It's not in all plants, that would be wrong of us to say. That's what we talk about when we talk about nectar. There was pollen as well, but pollen was the yellow dust, whereas nectar is the sugary, sweet liquid. Vision was my next complicated word. What does vision mean? If you've got good vision, or if you've got bad vision. If you think you know, pause the video there and write down what you think it means. So, vision is our ability to see. If you've got good vision, then you can see really, really well. If you've got poor vision, then you're not able to see very well. Now, bees have 5 eyes, and in the text it says they've got supervision, so they're able to see really well. So vision is the ability to see, how well you can see from your eyes. Our last complicated word was pouches. What is a pouch? What are pouches? If you think you know, pause the video, write it down, or tell somebody. So, a pouch is it's a bit like a pocket, isn't it? On your trousers, you might have a pocket where you can store things. So, animals obviously don't wear trousers, so they can't have pockets, but some animals already have pouches, which are little separate spaces where they can store things. The best example I can think of is a kangaroo. A kangaroo has a pouch on its stomach, which its little baby sits in. So some animals have pouches naturally built into their body, so it's a little bit like a stomach. So a pouch is a space to store things. I'm going to put brackets like air pocket. There we go. So those are our 3 complicated words for today: nectar, vision, and pouches. We've now clarified those words, so when we read them again, we'll know what they mean. Should we move on to the question section? So far we've predicted, we've read, and we've clarified. Now it's time to question. Okay, which type of bee rules the hive? That's question number 1. Which type of bee rules the hive? Right, well, let's get rid of me again. And let's go back to the text, shall we? Which type of bee rules the hive? Now, I remember seeing that in the middle somewhere. So let's zoom in again. I'm going to search for the phrase. Here. Rules the hive. So I'm going to read this whole paragraph. It says, the queen honeybee rules the hive. She gives birth to all the baby bees. So which type of bee rules the hive? Well, it is the queen honeybee. That's the type of bee that rules the hive. So here, which type of bee rules the hive? It is the queen honeybee. There we go. And it says she gives birth to all of the baby bees. So she is the ruler of the bees in an individual hive. Perfect. Next one says, how do bees communicate with each other? How do bees communicate? Well, what does communicate mean? Well, it means we communicate by talking. So how do the bees get messages to each other and tell each other what to do? Because they don't talk, do they? If you think you can remember, why not pause the video and write your answer down and see what you get? Now, I remember this bit because I liked this fact a lot. So I remember reading this. Here it is. Bee boogie. It says honeybees communicate with each other by dancing. Now, I think the picture might be a little bit misleading because they don't grab hands and spin each other around. They do little kind of sways and bobs up and down, and that's how they communicate with each other. A little bit like if you've got a dog, its tail wags, and that way you know it feels a certain way. And bees do the same thing, but they call it dancing. So when our question says, how do bees communicate with each other? Well, we could say for our answer, if you think you know your answer, don't forget to write it down. We could say, the bees communicate by dancing. Perfect. We've done 2 out of our 4 questions now. That's really good. Next question is, what is one difference between a honeybee and a bumblebee? Ooh, that's tricky. What is different about them? And it just says for one thing. There might be more than one thing, but we just need to write one thing down that's different. Let's go back to our text and have a little look. It's thinking about it. There we go. Now, do you remember where it was comparing honeybees to bumblebees? I do. It was here, where it had the picture of the honeybee and the picture of the bumblebee. Right, I'm going to read both paragraphs to you again. See if you can think of what is a difference between a bumblebee and a honeybee. It says honeybees have long, thin bodies and live in a hive. They are the only bees that can make honey. Bumblebees have thick, round bodies and live in the ground. Most have black and yellow stripes, but their bottoms can be red, white, brown, or yellow. Okay, so what is a difference between a honeybee and a bumblebee? You only need to write one down. If you can think of one, pause the video there and write it down. Now, I heard 3 differences. So I'm going to write all 3, but you only need to have written one. So one difference I heard was that honeybees live in a hive. Live in a hive, but bumblebees live in the ground. That was one thing I heard. Honeybees live in a hive, but bumblebees live in the ground. There was another one I heard as well. I'm going to make these a little bit smaller as I go along. The next one I heard was that honeybees have, what kind of bodies do they have? You can remember? They have long, thin bodies, but bumblebees have round bodies. So honeybees were very thin and long, whereas bumblebees are very round. The last one I heard was that honeybees can make honey. That makes sense, but bumblebees can't make honey. So there, I've written 3 differences between a bumblebee and a honeybee, but you only needed to have found one. Which one did you find? Or did you find a different one? Because that's okay too. I'm going to get rid of these 2, and I'm going to keep this 3rd one here as my answer. Honeybees live in a hive, but bumblebees live in the ground. That's what I'm going to keep. You ready for your last question now? It says, according to the book, what type of animals, apart from bees, like honey? Likes honey? That should be like honey, shouldn't it? What types? What? Oh no, what type of animals, likes honey? Is that right? What type of animals like honey? No, it should be like honey. Grammar lessons with Mr. Phillips. There we go. According to the book, what type of animals, apart from bees, like honey? Right. Now, I wonder if you can remember that, because that was very, very quick on a very, very small part of the book. Now, you might know lots of animals that like honey, but it does say, according to the book, so we can only do it if the book tells us. Now, does it mention any other animals? Well, it mentions over here a mouse, but does it say a mouse likes honey? When winter comes, some bees hide in old mouse holes to keep warm. Brr. Oh no, that doesn't mention that mice like honey. Which other animal do you think, according to the book, likes honey? Pause the video there and write your answer down. Okay, so the other animal that's mentioned is this boy over here, this big guy. Bears. It says bees are the best, and right down here it says bears love honey. There we go, that's our answer. What other type of animal, apart from a bee, likes honey, according to the book? Well, the answer is bears. There we go, those are our 4 answers. Got the queen honeybee, about who rules the hive. How do bees communicate? They communicate by dancing. What was one difference between a honeybee and a bumblebee? Well, honeybees live in the hive, or bumblebees live on the ground. And what other animal likes honey? We said bears. So we've answered all 4 questions now. Brilliant work. The last part of our reading lesson is a summary. Shall I bring myself back now? There we go. Hello again. So, now for our summary, we have to summarise everything that we've learned. So today I've got a question for you to answer, and that's going to be your summary task. It says, what is your favourite fact that you've learned about bees today? So you just tell me what was the best thing that you've learned about bees today. Now I'm going to write what mine was. Yours might be different to mine. So my favourite fact about bees is, now what's my favourite fact that I've learned today? Well, I think is that they communicate by dancing. I think the idea of lots of bees dancing to communicate is really, really cool. So that's my favourite fact, but you might have a different one. So don't forget to write down or tell someone what your favourite fact about bees today is. Okay, and there we go. We have predicted we have clarified, we've read the book, we've answered questions, and then we've summarised. And because I've used the technology, we've actually managed to get the lesson down to 20 minutes, which is how long it should be, rather than 25 or 30 minutes. If there's any bits of the video you've missed, feel free to rewind. But remember, keep pausing in the middle of lessons to give yourself time to catch up. Thank you very much, Year 1 and Year 2, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next writing lesson. Bye, guys. Bye, bye, bye.